This video will contain minor spoilers for pretty much everything to come from the Sonic franchise except for the mainline games. Also, keep in mind while watching that my intent is not to give a review of anything I discuss. I will share my criticisms and appraisals for certain pieces of media, but I have no interest in making a unilateral statement over whether a piece of media is good or not, especially since I've not even fully watched or read a lot of the things discussed in this video. A lot of my statements in this video are more opinionated than I tend to allow for my video essays, but I implore you to form your own opinions instead of just going off of what a random 17-year-old on the internet thinks. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the most recognizable video game characters ever created, truly only rivaling Mario, Pikachu, and maybe Steve. His games have sold over 1.5 billion units. Truly, he is a superstar. But what if you're not a gamer? Or what if you're just bad at the Sonic games? A lot of the games, especially the classic ones, can be quite difficult to get through, especially with the limited live system. What is the appeal of Sonic the Hedgehog when you don't play the games? I think the most obvious source of appeal is the character designs. Sonic was created as the cool alternative to the relatively lame Mario. He's fast, he has cool spikes, and he has a rebellious attitude. These are all things that may draw one to him, especially back in the 90s. Nowadays, his radical attitude has almost become a parody of itself, but notably, he's not the only character in the franchise. There's Tails, his best friend and a smart fox with two tails. He pilots a plane and is a young prodigy. Or what about Knuckles, the hard-headed sort of rival sort of friend of Sonic, depending on continuity. Or Shadow, the edgy one. Or Amy, Fang, Eggman, Blaze, Rouge, Styx. Surely there are a lot of characters representing all sorts of different animals. People love animals, and people love characters that look cool, so their designs alone can be very appealing to someone even if they've never touched a video game controller in their life. But if you don't want to sit back and play like Sonic Mania or any of the other countless mainline games, how can you engage with the franchise? Well, notably, there are plenty of Sonic games that aren't platformers. This franchise has been going on so long, there's a Sonic-associated game for pretty much any video game genre you can think of. Racing, fighting, party, pinball, visual novel, endless runner, you name it. For me, personally, I suck at the classic platformers, so these alternatives are very near and dear to my heart, and I would like to highlight two in particular. Sonic the Fighters, first released to arcades in 1996, is a 3D fighting game that was created by Sega AM2, using the same engine that was used for fighting Vipers. And it is also one of the few pre-Sonic Adventure examples of 3D Sonic. What's probably most known about this game is its interesting selection of playable characters. There's the expected Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. There's also Espio the Chameleon from Team Chaotix, a bit odd but not outlandish, Fang the Sniper, my personal favorite Sonic character and also my main for this game, is also available. He's rare to see now, but at the time he wasn't too obscure, being a major antagonist in Sonic Triple Trouble and being a playable character in Sonic Drift 2, so it's not too weird to see him here. No, the really strange ones are Bark the Polar Bear and Bean the Dynamite. To date, this is the only real game appearance for either character. They both had minor cameos in Sonic Generations and Sonic Mania, but at the time of making this video, that's it. In terms of gameplay, while obviously a bit rudimentary, the game on the whole is actually quite fun, and each character has their own unique moveset. Because of the relative simplicity of this game compared to some other fighting games like Street Fighter, it also is easy to pick up and fun to play with friends if possible. The other game I'd like to highlight is Sonic R, a racing game released in 1997 for the Sega Saturn, being one of the only Sonic titles for that console, as it never received a mainline game due to the cancellation of Sonic Extreme. This game doesn't have the greatest reputation, mainly because of its janky controls, but as someone who greatly enjoys racing games like Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, I quite enjoy it. The soundtrack is cheesy and it's easy to get lost or off track, but it has a sort of charm to it that I haven't been able to find in many other places. This game is also what spawned the Tails doll creepypasta, because, are you seeing this thing? It's creepy as hell. Of course it was gonna inspire shitty creepypasta stories. But okay, maybe you just don't like video games at all, regardless of genre. Fear not, young waverer! Sonic the Hedgehog has made his way into pretty much every medium you can think of, in a way that extends past pretty much every other video game franchise, barring maybe Pokemon. So, let's see what the other materials have to offer. When talking about Sonic's traversal into other mediums, you have to talk about the comics. Before its cancellation, the Archie Comics series was the longest-running American comic never to be relaunched. There's so many side characters in the comics that simply do not show up in any of the other Sonic materials. They are a crucial asset to the franchise. The Archie Comics run is probably the most known, though the quality of the comic throughout its run varied greatly. This is most infamously because of the direction and leadership from a man named Ken Penders, who led the comic throughout a lot of its run. I could make a whole separate video about this man, but to keep a long story short, Ken Penders is a terrible writer and artist who clearly also didn't actually care about Sonic as a franchise, and some truly stupid and terrible plotlines came out of the comic while he was in charge. Still, this comic series is very beloved and had plenty of good moments surrounding the more Ken Pendery issues, and it's worth looking into if you're into comics or are more interested in the earlier eras of Sonic the Hedgehog. Running around the same time as the Archie comics was the Fleetway comics, released over in England. These comics were quite different from the Archie series, with different characters, more accuracy to the Sonic Bible, and a truly baffling depiction of our titular hedgehog. Sonic in the Fleetway comics was a fucking asshole! If you are endeared by the Sonic Bible, or just want to see weird storylines that aren't made that way because of Ken motherfucking Penders, perhaps this would be something to check out. And, of course, we have to talk about the current comic series, the IDW comics, penned by Ian Flynn. If you want to see more of Sonic's modern design and what is pretty widely considered the objective best run of the comics, consider checking out a few of these issues. There are a few other comics we could get into, and a whole other world opens up if we look at fan-made material, but to keep the scope of this video within reason, I figured just highlighting the main three would be the best course of action. Still, if you like comics, and none of these scratched the itch for you specifically, I'd recommend doing your own research and even checking out fan works, because that's pretty much an infinite rabbit hole in itself. But let's say that comics aren't really your thing. I get you, that may be more reading than you feel like doing. Luckily for you, Sonic has had many ventures into the audio-visual realm of things. At the time of writing this, as far as I've been able to find, Sonic the Hedgehog has had 7 TV shows made, and I'll just go through them in chronological order for the sake of simplicity. Airing around the same time, both starting their runs in September of 1993, we got Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a slapstick comedy show and the source of the often memed PSA segments.
Kids, there's nothing more cool than being hugged by someone you like. But if someone tries to touch you in a place or in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good.
As well as another show simply titled Sonic the Hedgehog, which was more serious in tone and had a similar plotline to the Archie comics. Both had their fair share of early 90s cheese, but if that's your thing, then whichever one is a better fit for you would depend on personal preference when it comes to tone. Next up, starting its air in August of 1999, we have what is probably the most infamous show Sonic Underground. The plotline for the show was absolutely insane, following Sonic and his two siblings, because for some reason Sonic is a triplet in this show, as they lead a rock band together and try to find their missing mom. Gonna be completely honest, they lost me with this one. But the show does have a decent amount of fans, a banger intro song, and its own weird charm, so don't take my skepticism as me pushing you away from it if it sounds like something you would like. First airing in September of 2003 is our only anime on the list, Sonic X, which follows Sonic and Co.'s adventures alongside humans. I admittedly know pretty little about this show, and my eyes have a tendency to glaze over when I try to read big chunks of text, but from what I've gathered through social osmosis, people seem to find the main human character annoying, and I'm sure the show as a whole is hardly perfect, but it also has a good amount of fans, and if your brain is more hardwired to enjoy anime over Western animation, then this may be a good starting point for your venture into the world of Sonic. Next up is Sonic Boom, which began its run in November of 2015. While the Sonic Boom games absolutely flopped, the cartoon had a good enough reception to run for 2 full seasons on Cartoon Network. In terms of genre, it seems to be a comedy, or at least I'm assuming that's the case based on some of the clips I've seen memed about online.
Let's, feed it a chili dog. Everyone loves chili dogs.
I don't think he can eat solid food.
Well, then put it in the blender.
Well, if you say so.
The chili dog, not the baby!
And could be a good entry point to anyone who feels overwhelmed by the rest of the franchise, as the Sonic Boom series is mostly its own separate thing. Starting in December of 2022 is Sonic Prime, which is our first show made for a streaming service, definitely one of the objectively better shows, from my understanding, and could be a good option in terms of accessibility since a lot of people have Netflix, as well as for anyone who likes shows with an overarching plotline over more episodic shows with a mostly contained story for each individual episode. And finally, we have Knuckles, beginning its run on Paramount Plus in April of this year, 2024. If you're already into the Sonic franchise and like the live-action films, or Knuckles as a character, this is probably a good option. Talk about the show online is pretty limited. I trust you to make your own judgments. That goes for all of these shows. Do your own research, seek out reviews from people who have actually watched these, or just pick one at random and go in blind. The world is your oyster. But perhaps, while you do like the audiovisual format, episodic content isn't your thing. Or perhaps you don't like the pressure of finishing something with so many individual chapters or episodes. Well, fear not. Sonic has also made his way into the realm of film. Before we talk about the live-action films, I'd like to talk about the OVA movie. Technically speaking, this is not actually a movie. It's 2 episodes of an anime OVA, but it was packaged and sold as a movie when it came over to the States, so I'm counting it. This is probably the piece of Sonic media I have the most personal experience with, as I had it on VHS when I was little, and would watch it non-stop over and over again. The dub acting is...
Come on, you want to try it out?
Not right now, thanks.
All right, I'll go use it myself.
Tails is just like a little kid with his new toy.
And the OVA as a whole has the same 90s cheese that the franchise is known for, but if you like anime, Metal Sonic, or the prospect of Cowboy Knuckles, then this may be worth checking out, especially since you can find the whole thing on YouTube and it's like under an hour. In terms of actual movies, there's a whole slew of scrapped Sonic movie projects from throughout the years, but the ones that actually made it were the live-action animation hybrid films. If you prefer live-action over animation, then this may be your best bet, and they certainly do have their own charm. There's even a 3rd movie coming out this December that finally introduces Shadow to this universe, so now may be a good time to catch up if you're curious about that. Let's break away from the realm of plot fiction, though. Maybe none of this caught your eye, but you still want to sink your teeth into Sonic the Hedgehog, metaphorically, I mean. Well, to reach our final stop in the train ride of this video, let's look at merchandise. Sonic has seen a lot of merchandise over the years. If you like toys, there's plenty of plushes and figures of most Sonic characters, even some of the lesser-known ones. This scope blows up even further if you look at bootleg merchandise. There's a ton of Sonic apparel out there if you want to show off your love for the blue blur on your body without, getting a tattoo. In terms of things that you can eat, there have been many Sonic-branded foods over the years. The most iconic is probably the Sonic ice cream bar with bubblegum eyes. Pat Mack made a very interesting video on the history of that ice cream bar, which I'll link in the description if anyone's curious. And while you can't buy it, Sonic has even had 2 separate balloons made for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Infamously, these balloons in particular have also had a bad track record of running into light poles, breaking open, and even hurting people. These things freak me out, so I'll move on, but Pat Mack also did a video on those, which I'll link below. I'll also link his whole channel below because he's made a lot of good videos about Sonic merchandise over the years, so if that's your thing, then that's a good place to do research. There is so much Sonic merchandise out there that it would be nearly impossible to go into every single one in a single video, but if you want a more tangible way to engage with Sonic and his many friends, enemies, and frenemies, then consider stopping by your local store or hopping online and seeing what you can find. So, to conclude this video, Sonic's appeal to non-gamers largely boils down to a cool design and, well, external media. Again, aside from Pokemon, this is pretty much the most accessible video game franchise to people who don't like video games, and if you were wanting to hop into some of the other media from this franchise but didn't know where to start, hopefully something in this video caught your eye for a good starting point. To me, a lot of the appeal just comes from videos like this one of people talking about Sonic media. Cybershell, Pat Mack, and Hero Talks are good sources for that. However, I don't have a very clear way to show that this part of the appeal is a widespread thing, which is why I didn't give that its own section, but it is also something to keep in mind. There's not much else to say. Be kind to people, and stay hydrated. Okay, so now that the video is over, I really quick just wanted to show off some Sonic merchandise that I have. I don't want to bog down the merchandise section of this video because it felt kinda not good for the video, but I have this guy. I want him in a crane machine. He's not too interesting. He's just like a little squishmallow guy made of Sonic. You can buy him in stores. I went into Walgreens the other day and I saw like 4 of him, but I want him in a crane machine. I'm actually quite good at those. Here I actually received this as a gift. I have a plush of my boy Fang. He has like a felty material, which I don't super love, but he looks cool, and this is official, which is really cool because he's kind of an obscure character. The material actually reminds me of the Metal Sonic plush I have, which I don't have like immediately available, so I can't show here. I'm not the biggest fan of the material, but the fact that I have a plush of him is cool. And even if he's not fun to cuddle up with, I still like that I have him and I like looking at him. Now here is the like weird kind of interesting ones. So I have croc gibbets. They're the little things you can put into crocs to make them look interesting. Don't mind my charge cord. So I have one of Tails and one of Metal Sonic. I don't know if these are official, but they, they're well made. They seem official. Got one of them running. I got these at a farm. Like a market, open market thing at a farm in Oklahoma. Some random seller had a bunch of Sonic stuff, and these were the things I could afford, because they're just small and cheap. They had a bunch of them, but these are the ones I got. So those 2 look official, right? Here's the one that gets me. They had just one. They had multiples of those ones. Just one. Espio the Chameleon. This doesn't look real. I don't think it's real. I'm pretty sure this is a bootleg. The back of it is super fragile, as you can see. It's almost coming off. This doesn't look real. Why does he have a scarf? His position is super fucking weird. I don't know if you can tell, but that's like a weird pose. And the color is like super dulled out. Like this, I feel like should be white, but instead it's like this off-white color. Like what should be white is almost like a dark pink. This is fake, right? There's no outlines like with the other ones. I don't know if these are real. Again, I don't know if Sonic has ever done like a crossover collaboration with Crocs to make these, but these, at least if they are bootlegs, are like really nice looking, and I think they are official. I don't know if they are, but they seem official. This one, and like, why Espio? I genuinely don't know. If anybody has information on any of these ones in particular, I would love to hear them. But yeah, I just wanted to show this off because I thought it was interesting. Okay, bye.